Hi guys, welcome back to Clockwork Noodles, the channel where I break down some airing animes. I look into things like colour, I look into design and iconology and symbology, all the fun bits that grab my attention. I have got a series where I look a bit deeper into character design. That is what is in a design. There are 5 episodes currently in that series where I break down certain characters, look at their design, look at the good work that the artists do behind the scenes, and how a character's design colours can actually show you what's going to happen with a character and also tell you a little bit about them before you get to really know them. I have got a few different social media channels. Make sure you are subscribed to the YouTube. You will also be interested to know that there are some cool videos going up. The first of which goes up in about 5 days. It's a new format and I think it's a bit more fun. Make sure you are subscribed or you will miss out that new cool format. I also have a Discord channel where you guys will get a notification whenever a video goes up. And it's also a good place to lurk around. It's a platform I plan to develop as we go along and get bigger. So let's move on with today's episode. Today's episode focuses on a new character, which is fun, and we also see my favourite girl come back into the fray. Inagami seems to have taken some lessons from Dumbledore and indeed has that one door in the building that you should never open. Quick note to his best dad abilities and the way he distributes chores amongst the kids is fantastic. I really like the little wheel they've got going on. I think he is such a good character and I really like him. He's got those best dad vibes, like dad goals going on. And to be fair, in the defense of Cabernet, he didn't open the door, guys. He simply moved the box and then ended up being dragged into his new hell. Thanks to him being dragged into the new fresh hell, we meet our new character. Our new character is called Mihai, the resident hermit crab, can we say? The gamer. I also like the fact that Cabernet is serving him, being the good bean that he is, with no complaints. He almost seems to take quite pride in the fact that he is now the new wait person. He takes a bit of responsibility with the new position, even though it's technically Mihai treating him a bit like a slave, as he then lets slip a bit later on in the episode. Let's quickly talk about Mihai's white hair. Within Japanese colour boards, white hair often lends to a supernatural or godly feel. He is technically a vampire, so he doesn't really age, so he is probably the nearest thing to a god within the anime. We also hear him mentioned as a bit of an advanced breed amongst Kemono. He has got the pointy ears, the white hair lending to a very cold, cool nature, a bit mysterious in that sense. Most white-haired characters are often seen as a bit unfeeling, a little bit unsympathetic, a little bit detached. At this point, I couldn't initially see what colour his eyes were because he basically lives like a hermit in front of like 6 screens. He's got a 6-screen layout, guys, not a 3-screen layout. But a little bit later on, we do see his actual eyes come forward and his eyes are red. Red is the sign of danger, passion, energy. It can be very fiery at times. It can be angry and immature. So this character is definitely giving us a bit of a on-edge vibe. We can't really fully trust the guy. Mihai is going to come across as a joker, a bit of a prankster. I think at the end of the day, he's going to do the right, like we have seen him jumping when needed, but at the same time, he's one of those characters who, due with that design as well, he up to mischief, and I think he's obviously going to do things his way. He also thinks quite highly of himself, where he actually appoints the role to Cabernet and says, you will be honoured, of course. Mihai actually gives us the age-old question, do immortals get bored? Yes, it would appear so. So what do you do once you've learned absolutely everything there is to learn and there's nothing else to do? Well, you pwn some noobs on Fortnite or you play WoW, aka the pro gamer life. So he does say guild life. So that makes me wonder if he's playing an MMO or something, which would be interesting to see if we get a bit more details on what kind of games the guy plays. He is indeed our resident techie, and we also learned that poor Inagami is a bit tech literate, not his best strong point. Mihai is indeed responsible for the website, the IT services around the area. He's also quite coolly up to the security where the kids actually have their phones protected, probably on a VPN. Guys, no, not sponsored by NordVPN or anything. That would be the perfect place though if I was actually sponsored to slip in a sponsorship, but I'm not, so we can continue. But it is indeed that these kids are having their phones protected from Inari. Cabernet ends up ignoring Inagami's warning to leave the guy well enough alone and actually seems to take pride in the fact that this is my newly appointed role, where we get actually introduced to another thing that vampires generally get in mythology, that's strength. So vampires are often shown as pale creatures who don't really come out very often, but they are full of strength. So despite their actual appearance, they are very strong. He ends up simply wiping out Shiki. Cabernet also attempt to take him on but do absolutely no better, because vampires really are just OP. I find vampires absolutely fascinating, so it's cool to see one added to the episode and the roster. But it's also quite nice because Shiki takes on Mihai because he cares about what happens to Cabernet. During one of the chores where Cabernet has been sent out to get some shopping, Cabernet ends up lamenting on the fact that he wants to become stronger and protect all the others, where my girl falls straight back into the picture. I have missed her. I am so happy she's kind of back, but I think after this episode and a certain promise getting broken, I think she's going to be a very sad fox. Cabernet pretend to be headless. It's a very cute scene where he quickly zips it all up again, and obviously you can only fool her really once and she's not going to be fooled again. Poor Kon tells us what's now happened. So Inari has indeed replaced her. Kon has been replaced by another Kitsune, and this Kitsune I think is seen in the opening credits and the end credits. It's the blonde-haired boy. He's probably going to play a part at some point later down the line. I also get the feeling he's not going to be as nice as our dear Kon. Kon is now sadly all alone. We can see that she blames herself. It's the kind of character that she is. We know that she prides herself in being a good girl, and she definitely has attachment issues. Now she's on her own, and it's actually really, really sad because she's such a good character. A few episodes ago, we even heard Inagami call her a good girl. She's harmless. She's a good character. Cabernet, instead of consoling her, coming in to console her, he asks her to actually fight. He doesn't hold back. So poor Kon, who already feels really sad, really alone, she ends up getting quite badly beaten with a bloody nose, and she's in tears. We see her simply hating herself more and more, why she calls herself weak. So we actually get to see Cabernet feeling really bad, where he actually goes in to hold her hand. But it's such a sad scene because I really feel bad for what's happened to Kon, because to Inari, she's just a pawn. She's just somebody that she can use to her own advantage, then disown when she's no longer any use to her. The utter shock on Inagami's face at this next bit, where the antisocial gamer vampire finally leaves his cave. He has come out of his hibernation. It actually appears that Cabernet did break his wrist. So despite Cabernet actually losing, he won still, but he actually took a lot of damage. So it's like, at what cost did you win? But he does actually give us another hint of what type of games he plays when he says that it's going to be bad for his guild members. I really would like it if we could find out what game this guy is playing. Then get introduced to the idea that vampires are actually slower healers, and it's probably going to take him roughly a week. So our bored vampire who can no longer game, what's he going to do? Well, he ends up accepting a job, and it's actually turns out to be quite the serious job that Inagami was trying not to accept. He mentions that somebody at this point could die. So we are now in quite deep. This episode seems to be half and half, so it looks like the next episode will drag on from this episode. I do like split episodes. Split episodes tend to give you more information. They tend to be a bit more in depth. The pacing tends to be better on these two split episodes. So really getting into today's mission, we do see the more kind of sadistic side to Mihai, and he simply accepts a serious job as punishment for not being able to game. Yes, I low-key ship this. I low-key ship Kon and Cabernet. They really look so cute on the bench, and it's the fact that he hasn't let go of her hand and she's ended up falling asleep on him. He does invite her to come and live with Inagami, but as we learnt when I told you about Tanuki and the Kitsune, even in the folklore, these two groups do not get on. They just simply can't live together. They are opposing. There's been a few animes which play on the idea of the fight between the two. Tanuki just simply can't live with the Kitsune, but perhaps that will change a bit later in this season, hopefully, because I don't want Kon on her own. It makes me really sad. But she says, I can live with you. So she kind of invites him to go and live with her out in the wild. Cabernet can't simply turn his back on his family because he now does consider them family. He loves Inagami, as he says, and he wants to get gifts for his new family members. And I really do hope that Kon does decide to live with them, because I love this character to bits. She is a great character. She's not a bad character or anything. She did what she had to do because she did it for somebody she cared for, and now that person has thrown her aside. She ends up promising to wait for him once he's finished his mission. I think this is where it's going to lead to next time we see her, she's going to be very, very sad. Cabernet is going to be stuck in this new mission with the bugs. I don't think he's going to come back, and I think she's going to feel a bit disheartened that he's gone and left her. hopefully that gets addressed and she's not too heartbroken. But I do hope at some point we get to see Con brought into the others. I did do a little bit of research online. I told you guys I really liked her hoodie. You can buy the hoodie, and I'm very tempted to buy the hoodie. I'll consider it as my gift. Maybe when I finish the series, I'll buy the hoodie. I really like the designs for this anime. I think that's one of the good points for Kemono Jihen. The designs, the color bases, everything is just really lovingly done. So it's not an anime which has skimped on just, this person's going to look like this because they can. All the characters have colours that really reflect who they are. The designs are gorgeous. I loved Con's design with the fact that her hood's got ears in it to cover her real ears, because it just looks like a hoodie with cute ears otherwise. I like the little details, and I really hope that Con doesn't end up on her own too much longer and she kind of becomes family at some point. Today, we need to get going. We need to get going onto the big mission that is going to hopefully take up the entirety of next episode, and it's going to be impact, it's going to be risky, it's going to be hopefully scary as well. This is today's episode, but before we get going, we are introduced to Shiki's new skill. Shiki has been working on the ability to mimic things. Today's mission is to investigate bug bite electronics. You can kind of tell in the name that something buggy is going on. And also quite fun that it's called Bug Bite, because our new character introduced is a gamer, and games have bugs. So a little low-key fun thing I found entertaining myself when I was looking back at it. Company had 16 suicides one year, and now they're behaving themselves. But we are to investigate, infiltrate them, and try and get some information on what happened to the suicide. Oddly enough, we have Mihai spearing today's task. And I like the fact that it's a bit more techie. So we've got the car going along. Everyone's talking to each other over like headsets and stuff. I like the addition of him, but at the same time, he's a character who is up to no good. But at the same time, it's very cool to see everybody using new technology. Poor Inagami has been trapped in the room and he can't get out because Mihai is playing on the fact that Inagami isn't good with technology and he has absolutely no idea how to get out. Also, apparently he has booby-trapped the pin pad. Poor Inagami has sadly had to step aside for today's episode, today's mission, and we're gonna investigate our new character, introduced to some more of his abilities and a little backstory which is subtly thrown in. When mentioning the optical camouflage that Shiki is using and the car is using, he does drop into the fact that he has a military background. Well, the guys live forever, so at some point it makes sense that he's delved into the military. Seems that Bug Bite are breaking a lot of rules, labour laws going on, where the workers are being completely overworked. We see one of them on the brink of absolute madness. Introducing the villains for this mission, we see a girl named Kaga. Ends up with quite that gruesome sequence where the human ends up getting his brain sucked out via his ear. Everybody working for the building or this company is now just a mindless zombie. Hence the fact that they are reporting no suicides, because everybody is basically a zombie and can't think for themselves anymore. They say they are tricking the CEO. So there is a human CEO who is being tricked by a bunch of kimono, and obviously these guys are behind the suicides behind it. So what their ultimate goal is, I guess we'll find out next week. Thanks to Inagami, we are introduced to these kimono as Kanoba. I can't find a link online. They might be using a different name. There are probably bug-related folklore stories out there, so it probably definitely links. I just sadly can't find you guys any information. These guys apparently suck out human brains. They end up making that zombie workforce. But we interestingly get a breakdown on our characters as Mihai, he starts to look at Shiki. Mainly it's Shiki he kind of focuses in on, and how level-headed all the kids are. The fact that nobody's going rushing in. So he does remark on the fact that everybody's very mature, everybody is level-headed, nobody's thinking irrationally. But he does call Shiki the ultimate boring. It seems Mihai is not very happy with the decision to walk away, go back to safety, where he decides to drive the RC car into a wall and gives up the position to all the bugs, and thus leading the kids into a lot of danger. So it looks like we're not running from this one, we have to face these bugs head on. Oddly, one of the bugs actually finds the car and hides the car to not tell the co-workers, oh yeah, this is here. So she essentially says, I can't see anything. Two of them end up going away. And also, this is a big problem because Shiki has now lost his ability to contact Kabane and Akira, where now we have bugs on the loose. Shiki ends up facing off against one of the big bugs. I think they say there's 3 of them, so it's kind of 3 versus 3. Whilst the other 2 bugs are now on the loose, heading over to Akira and Kabane. But as we know, Akira is out cold because he saw the brain being sucked through the human's head, and we know he's not so good on his horror elements, so it's going to be Kabane versus 2 bugs next episode. Shiki ends up panicking completely, ends up being discovered by the bug who hid the car. I think she maybe saw him and wanted to keep him to herself, perhaps. She does give us some information which is interesting, where she says that we're hiding from the kitsune. So the kitsune they're trying to avoid attention is Inari. I think she says that if we kill anybody, she's going to get wind of it. So either they're working with her out of fear, or they're trying to do something undercover which they're not working with her for, and they don't want her getting wind of it. So very interesting that they do mention it, because that kitsune is definitely Inari. Very different side of Shiki now. It looked like he was having an asthma attack, but it actually turns out to be his trauma, which is similar because it can also cause that rapid breathing, where Mihai ends up saving Shiki by making the car electrocute the bug who's going to kill him. But we definitely see that Shiki has been hiding trauma from everybody. So I did suspect that it might be the case, because he's got a very rash personality where it seems very overconfident. And generally, very overconfident people are either hiding something, or they generally are just overconfident. And I kind of figured, because a lot of these kids seem to have sad stories behind them, that there might be a case that Shiki is definitely hiding something, and it definitely turns out that he is. So I think next episode, we're definitely going to get a different look at what Shiki is hiding from us. That dangerous side to Mihai, the colder side, everything that we've seen via the character design is coming out quite nicely. But that's another reason, again, I absolutely adore the Kemono Jihen designs, because all of the designs are very clever. So we've had, again, another really good episode. We've set up the main mission, which is going to be next week's focus. We're going to hopefully see how Cabernet gets out facing the two bugs, how our boy Shiki is going to recover from being very, very traumatized. Also, whether we get a look at what is the big trauma with Shiki, that will be interesting. We need to have another look at Mihai and what's actually going on with him, what he's up to, because he definitely seems to be up to something a little unsavory, because Inagami has been locked away, and Inagami seems absolutely terrified of the thought that they're up against these bug kimono. So I really hope that we get a bit more character depth with him. Also, really hoping that Kon ends up being taken in by the guys, and that she isn't going to be too heartbroken when poor Cabernet doesn't come back for her, because he's now a bit preoccupied and stuck in a building with some murderous bugs. So very, very exciting. Also great to see that we've got our antagonist, Inari, still lurking around and rattling around, subtly making appearances. Very, very sad that poor Kon has been replaced, but that kid that she's replaced him with is definitely in the credits and the OP, so definitely gonna have a role to play at some point in the episode. Really, really loving Kemono Jihen. I do at some point have to make my top 3 anime list for winter. So will Kemono Jihen make it onto my top 3 is the question, because it's definitely surprising me more than I thought it would. So initially I picked it up. I needed that 4th anime to air upon, so I picked up Kemono Jihen because I was going to watch it anyway, because I absolutely love things like Supernatural. But I decided it would be fun to break down and talk to you guys about it, and I think it's paying off. I think it really is. I'm having a lot of fun discussing this anime, and there are so many good little points with the anime, the way it's building people, the way it does the horror elements quite subtly. So the horror isn't all the time, but when they do focus on it, it's done quite nicely, where it makes you feel a little bit odd. It makes you feel a little bit uneasy. I like the way it's been handled. So really, really loving this, and I like today's episode. There's a lot of really fun points. We've now got a new character on the scene once more, but is he really a friend or foe? Because he seems to be trusted enough to be brought into the fold, but Inagami seems to recognise there's a lot of danger to him and is obviously trying to keep the kids away from him. So very interested to see how next week is going to handle it. How are we going to resolve the situation? Are our boys now in danger? And is Inagami going to be able to get out at some point and hopefully protect everybody? So I'm looking forward to. I hope you guys are enjoying Kemono Jihen as much as I am. I will see you guys again next week. Make sure you're taking care of yourselves and have a good one, guys. Bye bye.